For those of you unfamiliar with what a database is, I wanted to kind of take what we had done at the beginning of this course in talking about dynamic page requests and take it down to the database level. So I'll just review this real quickly and then we'll take it from there. So in a dynamic web page request process, the request starts at the user, makes a request of the server, and then the server only speaks HTML. So if there's a server-side language involved, this is where it resides. And the web server, all it does is serve up pages back and forth. So any processing in PHP, Cold Fusion, ASP, it doesn't matter which server-side language, that all happens over here outside of the web server. Now, it is possible to have these two kind of combined within a single web server. But the idea is it's a separate process that does the actual processing of our PHP code. And that PHP is what communicates with the database. So if we dig a little bit deeper in terms of the database piece, how does this communication happen? I do have another slide to show you that piece. And in this slide, what it does, this one is a little bit more specific to the Windows side of things, using ODBC or JDBC if you're in Cold Fusion. But the concept is the same. So here's a request to the server. So somebody's out there on the internet requesting a web page. Here is the web server. The web server says, I don't speak PHP. So it moves out to the application server layer here. And this server layer is what communicates with the database. Now, in some languages, there is a little process that needs to occur within here, but you can think of this ODBC layer as the actual connection information. So our application server layer in this example would be PHP, and PHP needs information in order to connect with the database side over here. So this ODBC layer that I'm referencing in this slide, specific to Windows, is really just how do we store the information in PHP to connect to the database. Now, on the database side of things, what the database is simply a grouping of tables. Those tables have what's known as relationships between them so that you can pull data out of multiple tables. So we don't get into creating databases within this course. The assumption is the database has already been created. But what we have to understand is the database table structure so we can communicate and pull information out of those tables as needed. That information will come back to PHP, and this will be your connection area, storing the connection information of, okay, where is my database located and what type of database is it? And that's really all this does. PHP over here in the application server layer will be the one to take that database data, put it onto our web page in HTML manner, send the HTML to the web server, who spits it out, so to speak, to the browser. So ultimately, it goes this direction and then right back so the user can get that database information printed onto their web page. Now, in terms of databases themselves, I do have a SQL area on my website for some resources. How you set up your database, there are some normalization rules, and that connections diagram we just looked at is listed here if you want to look at it a little further. What we're going to do next is go out to the phpMyAdmin area. And I got to this area through the control panel. And within the control panel, there is an admin access. As long as it's running, I can reach admin. I click this button in XAMPP. There's also an admin button or admin section to access the admin in MAMP. Once I click that or select the admin area for the database, it takes us out to phpMyAdmin. Now, here are all the individual databases we have set up. These are pre-built. When we install PHP through these various testing server environments, this is the PHP portion. So I'm not going to modify anything in here. But here's the database. This is a listing of all of the tables. Inside the tables, these are all the individual fields within a table. So if I click on the table, this shows me the basic header columns, so to speak, of a table. If I wanted to view the information inside the table, I can click the Browse button. Now notice when I hover over the Browse, it says Table seems to be empty. PHP is not going to allow me to access that information. So let's see if I go out to this database. Here is my database structure. So these are all the tables. There's 28 tables in this database. That's the structure area. If I select one of these tables, it shows me the individual columns within the table, and those columns are referred to as fields. If I browse in this particular item or this table, I get the same information. So these are all pre-built. The system needs those in order to run. Here is our database, and we actually have some data inside here. So if I click in the countries table, you'll see I get a listing of the countries. So the Browse button allows you to see the data inside the table. If I wanted to get an idea of the structure of the table, in other words, this table has 2 columns of data, I can go in here. Here's the information setting up those columns. So we're not really going to cover the database side of things. I just wanted to get you a little bit familiar with what a database is. We'll be modifying these using forms. So we don't need to come in here and modify anything. It's all set up for you. So that is the PHP My Admin area to manage our MySQL database, and just a little bit of background about databases and how it all ties together in a dynamic web environment.